What's going on? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk to you about Lucid. I want to go over some of the current data points, break it down on what's really moving it, and go over everything else you need to know. But first, make sure you guys hit that thumbs up, and with that, let's get right to it. Lucid's down 4.71%, 211 the low, 221 the high, and you were seeing a lot of volume, so 186 million shares being traded. 130 is the average. Most of the volume though is coming from algorithmic trading. You can kind of tell based on the barcoding, but I'll kind of talk on that later in the video. No news from Lucid, no SEC filings or anything like that, so they've been rather quiet, but a couple of things did come out that's moving the market, both positive and negative. Today seems to be a little bit more of a back and forth day, but data points, balance of trade did come in better than anticipated. So negative 61 billion versus negative 66 hasn't been that low since pretty much late 2022. So I'm sure Trump's giving himself a pat on the back because of that, because it did signal during that time frame that the imports of Chinese products pretty much were like very, very low. So again, Trump's plan is essentially working. If you think that's a good thing or bad thing, I'm not here to talk about that, but initial jobless claims did also come in a little bit higher than the forecast. So this is a little bit flip side, a little bit negative data. So 247 versus 243 similarly hasn't been this high in almost about a year and a half. So you kind of have back and forth. Even other data, so you did have the market very optimistic about Trump having an hour-and-a-half conversation with China, and Trump mentioning it was a productive conversation for both sides. So the market really liked that. But flip side, you also have a actual breakup occurring right in front of our eyes between Elon and Trump. And a lot of things Elon is saying is spooking the market in reality. And plus, he's pretty much in a lot of these posts calling out Trump as kind of a liar. And unfortunately, Trump did state that obviously Elon rubber stamped and approved that bill that obviously Elon is very opposed against, and Elon just said nope, it didn't happen. It happened in the middle of the night. Most of Congress didn't even have time to read it. So it's definitely interesting, and I've been investing since pretty much late 08, early 09. And back then you just had to read articles, look at the fundamentals and stuff like that. Nowadays, it still is that. You still look at fundamentals, but most of the information is on Twitter. So absolute craziness is happening in front of our eyes. And Elon essentially is saying if this bill does pass, the States is going to end up bankrupt. Although technically, based on Elon saying what he has said in the past, both Rivian and Lucid should be bankrupt right now. So got to take everything with a grain of salt. A couple of other things did come out. So I must have kind of misread, or I saw some other post that did signal that there was no Gravity's sales in May. I guess we don't really know that information. So we do know 975 vehicles were delivered in May. That is a 74% year-over-year growth. A little bit on the low end, in my opinion, so we'll hopefully have to get some further clarity from Lucid from them during their next upcoming earnings, but it doesn't actually show the breakdown of that 975. So we'll have to wait and see from Motor Trend, because they do break it down. So my apologies on saying that yesterday. A couple other things. So you did have Rocco post this. So I haven't really seen any confirmation of this, but if this is true, this would be a huge catalyst for Lucid. So Bloomberg reported that Saudi Arabia could impose American-style tariffs to restrict car sales to local Saudi Arabian companies. And if they do that, then Lucid would get a nice little bump up. So let me know your viewpoint on that. Flip side, I don't know if Saudi Arabia would actually do that. I know they've been trying to lay a little bit low because they've been just doing their own thing. So for them to do this, I feel like it would possibly rub people the wrong way for the most part. And with what is happening in the States, and obviously AMP1 being affected, if Lucid or Saudi Arabia does this, I feel like a lot of retaliation might go against Saudi Arabia. So AMP2 might not be able to ship on a larger scale, possibly. Again, that's just thinking kind of a couple of steps ahead. So I don't know, what is your viewpoint? Do you think that this would be good for Lucid, or do you think it would be negative if Saudi Arabia was to impose some obviously tariffs and so forth? And then last but not least, last thing to bring up was a latest flyover. This came out and was posted 15 days ago, or 15 hours ago, and it was from, it looks like the 4th, and you see a lot of gravities. So hopefully we do see more and more of those on the road. So yeah, that is pretty much the next big catalyst, is them just shipping the hell out of the Gravity because they must hit their year-end goal. And as well, they definitely cannot cut their target because they did that in 2023 and the market absolutely slapped Lucid around like crazy. So Lucid cannot afford to not hit their targets. So as well, this individual does kind of talk on the limited supply. So all of this right here is just the pre-existing inventory that Lucid is doing up to, I think it's 31.5 in discounts. So let me know your thoughts on that in the comments below. Shorts right now are returning 496,000 shares. 31.09% of the free float is being shorted. Works out to be 383,000 shares. So like I mentioned at the beginning, majority of the volume is algorithmic trading, which is picking up on a lot of the negativity between Trump and Elon, really suppressing a lot of the market. And plus you can kind of see as well from the secondary market and dark pool, it just doesn't add up anywhere remotely to the volume. So today's another heavy volume day. Looking at the options, you have 2.06 million in calls, 359,000 in puts. 50% of all the options being done are bearish in nature. And most of that was actually at the beginning part of the day. Obviously as everything was coming out, but from the bulls you do see a consensus for it to be above roughly 250 for next week. And then for this week, you see some optimism around that $2 range. So definitely, I think people are losing confidence in Lucid right now. And it might not just be Lucid, it's just the broader market, right? A lot of gray things are in the market. Bears are anticipating for it to be sub $2. Currently with it at 213, it is trading between this S1 and this S2. So 208 is going to be that line in the sand, must hold point, because if it does break below that, then it could potentially get to that high ones. So 208 is going to be a strong support, and then 219 followed by 238 is going to be the next strong target slash resistance points. No new analyst ratings. There was that shareholder meeting. I didn't participate in that or live stream that. Nobody really seemed interested in it. And honestly, it wasn't anything special. There was no speculative things. It was just all compensation based, affirming the accounting and whatever. Is just pretty standard stuff. So that was the annual shareholder meeting, but market obviously didn't really care too much about that. No new analyst ratings, no articles really coming out about Lucid. So it's just been at the mercy of the broader market. So let me know your viewpoint on all of that. On the actual chart itself though, it is below all the key pivotal moving averages that I like to look at. Still very, very oversold. So once the market does finally decide that it wants to and is ready to move higher, then that could really stand to benefit Lucid. And as well, a lot of stocks are kind of in the same boat as Lucid. So let me know your viewpoint on that in the comments below. Right now, I think it's just in free fall because over the last 5 days alone, it is down, or I guess 2.09, but over the last 1 month, it's more portraying accurately, but yeah, down 11.27%. So I think Lucid's time to, it is getting very, very low. So it's overdue for a little bit of a push higher, because even looking right over here, it's been brutal, absolutely brutal. But you see a huge bump up in the volume lately. So we did have 262 million shares being traded in one day, 259, 201, 165. So it is fair to assume, obviously, since we haven't received any Form 4s from the PIF, that it is legitimately dilution occurring behind the scenes. So let me know your thoughts on that. Lucid does have that still valid S3 because S3 are shelf offerings, good for 3 years, so they can dilute without really notifying anyone until we obviously have their next earnings. So I guess during the next earnings, we'll be able to find out if to what magnitude they have been diluting and possibly what for. So let me know your thoughts on Lucid. Have you been buying? Have you been selling? What's your general kind of thoughts on all of that? And then one final thing, pop over to my Patreon. I give buy signals on stocks, options, crypto, many of which have been absolutely on point. So definitely worthwhile to pop over there and take a look. With all that said, appreciate all of you watching.